Hello, everyone, and welcome to Buffalo Bills Breakdown. I am Sal Maiorana, joined as always by my partner here, Leo Roth. We had about a month off, Leo, for various reasons, but we're back, and it's a good time to come back because the Bills just had the draft last weekend, and it was certainly an interesting 3 days for the Bills. So we're going to kind of give our breakdown of how we thought the Bills did. We'll get into a little bit later in the show the news that they're going to decline the fifth-year option on Shaq Lawson, which is pretty significant news, I think. But we'll start with the draft because it's kind of fresh in our minds. Look, Leo, I thought they did a pretty good job, especially with their first two picks, addressed clear needs. And then after that, it was a little bit of a hodgepodge of, best player on their board or plug in, depth positions maybe at running back, at tight end. All in all, most of the analysts gave the Bills pretty high marks, A-, B+ type of grade. What did you think of Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott last week?
I think, Sal, anytime a team can address the trenches, they probably have a pretty sound plan, and they're probably doing pretty safe picks. I think traditionally, obviously, if you take special skilled players, I think there's a bigger risk there always. You're going to grab your wide receiver, your running back, your quarterback, obviously.
Right.
But the linemen, I think these scouts and the personnel men, they have a good handle on can a guy cut it or not. I know there's, Buffalo has had their share of guys, Mike Williams for one that it didn't work out. But you know what? They tend to hit on their offensive linemen particularly, and defensive linemen. Pretty good there as well. I know Ed Oliver is the number one, and then Cody Ford is the tackle. Ed Oliver is only the fourth time they've picked a defensive tackle number one.
Right.
So they've had better luck actually in the second rounds where they got Fred Smerlas and Jeff Wright.
Or the fifth round.
And the fifth round where they got the all-time greatest pass rushing defensive tackle for almost 50 sacks in his career in Kyle Williams. So I think these two guys off the top, Sal, I have no doubt Ed Oliver is obviously just going to plug them in.
I think and Cody Ford. I think it was it John Butler who used to say you draft big. I think it was Butler who always had that axiom, you want to draft your big people. Get really good big people on either side, and then you massage things to find, well, not quarterback. You want to pick a quarterback. But all the other positions, receiver, running back, cornerback, say, you kind of can fill those in as the draft goes, but you really want to hit on big people because the game is really won very often in the trenches.
Obviously the Bills' offensive line, we'll switch real quick to there and jump on Cody Ford, but really saw that line. Obviously we knew it was one of the worst in history. It was patched together with some rookies and some on the cheap free agents, particularly at center. Right. Losing Eric Wood was a blow. Beane and McDermott were caught off guard by that one. And they didn't have quite the cap room a year ago to maybe go out and really fill those needs. And then the Richie Incognito, all his troubles and where his personal life went.
Well, of course, the Bills started that, though, by asking him to take a pay cut.
Well,
they got the ball rolling on that.
Maybe that threw Richie into a tailspin. But whatever. Right off the bat, you got two really fine offensive linemen that played with a nasty streak, smart, and they really gave the Bills a presence, a swagger. And they lost that. Now that last year they lined up, they just didn't have any of that. And it probably showed, I'm not going to blame all the Lesean Mccoy's troubles on the line, but he obviously missed those guys tremendously.
Oh, sure,
tremendously.
And he made it very clear in the offseason that he wanted some replacements.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And then, of course, with the quarterback, obviously you got to pass protect and all that good stuff. I think Josh Allen running as much as he did was a combination of the line and also his own inexperience as a quarterback that he would take off and run. But obviously to move forward and get better, and this offense was just horrible. It was horrible.
People forget. People got blinded by the last 5 weeks when they played a little bit better. You got to remember, the first 11 games of the year, they were as bad an offense as we've ever seen in Buffalo. And that's, when you consider the teams of the late 60s, early 70s, that's saying something. But this team was close to being that bad on offense.
I always remember that stretch in the mid-year, Sal, when they went single digits 3 games in a row. That was just something. That was the low point.
That was when they had, I think there was, wasn't there 3 different starting quarterbacks in 3 weeks in a row?
They did,
I
that's
think
true.
it was Allen, maybe Allen Anderson, Barkley.
Anderson got hurt.
Maybe Peterman got one of his starts in there too. But that was just, I mean, what team has done that? 3 straight weeks having a different starting quarterback.
So it was bad. So to get back to our focus here, I have no problem at all that they, obviously, Kyle Williams leaving. They could have, they expected it, and they had to find a guy that, you can find a guy that they can go right in, and I think Ed Oliver is that player.
Yep.
And then a Cody Ford. Obviously, there's a lot of offensive linemen. Their free agent moves were just, incredible what Bean did on that side of the ball in free agency. I'm just like, incredible in the fact that it was the number of free agents that they got.
Right.
20 of them, I think we're off a player or two, but roughly 19 free agents and 15 are on offense.
Yeah.
And 6 of them are on the line.
It really is. I can't recall, I'm not going to have time to look it up, but I can't recall any NFL team signing 6 unrestricted free agent offensive linemen in the span of a month and a half, and then
you
draft a guy.
And now everyone expects Ford to be the right tackle guy. I'm not so sure about that, but he is a player, played at a really good school at a high level, a big body guy, athletic, kind of guy that they like. And you want to root for him. Now, if Ford pans out and then Deion Dawkins can hold down the left side, now you've drafted your bookend tackles. That's pretty good work.
Right.
And then you got Mitch Morse, the best center in free agency. Now you're putting it back together. And of course, it's going to take some time. I really hope that in these mini camps coming up in the spring here, that they settle on their 5 guys and they can go into St. John Fisher knowing they're 5. That would be huge.
That would be huge, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I think there's too many guys.
Yeah, I think this training camp, I'm even writing about this for a story next week. Everyone last summer only focused on the quarterback competition because it was certainly the most fascinating thing. But this year, anybody out there who likes offensive line play, man, go to Fisher because you're going to see all different kinds of combinations. And these guys literally are going to be fighting for their lives, not only to start, but just to make the team because there's so many bodies. And like we said, the combinations that could be possible here are pretty much endless. You could have a situation where Dawkins could play left tackle.
Other than Morse at center, everything's up in everything's a possibility.
They've got guys who could play tackle, maybe play guard. They might mix and match them. It's going to be quite interesting. And again, offensive line play generally bores me to tears. Yeah. But given the importance of the offensive line, I think what's going to happen in the offseason here and then training camp is going to be very interesting because it's going to set them up for the regular season.
And in all fairness, Sal, I guess they should give all these guys a chance to come into camp and put pads on.
They should.
And win the job that way other than picking them in shorts over in Orchard Park.
And we've talked about this too. The guys they signed in free agency, outside of Mitch Morse, who will be a plug-and-play full-time starter, these other guys, they've had opportunities and they've got some starting experience, but none of these guys are slam dunks. Ty Nseki, John Feliciano, Spencer Long. These guys have been decent NFL players. I think the one guy that might join Mitch Morse is Quinton Spain, the left guard who started 4 years for the Titans. I think he's a guy who will probably come right in and I think solidify maybe that left guard spot. But the rest of these guys, really, they're kind of unproven. So it's going to be a free-for-all in training camp. Back to Ed Oliver. Look, Leo, we knew that this was a key position for the Bills. With Kyle Williams going out, this other starting tackle is Starler Tulele, which, look, what he is a guy who's going to take up space and hopefully occupy blockers, but he is not a playmaker in any way. It probably isn't even his job description, but the Bills needed a guy like Kyle Williams, not so much last year, but in his heyday.
In his prime,
a quick, penetrating tackle who could not only blow up in the pass rush, but blow up running plays in the backfield. This is Ed Oliver's forte, at least in college. That's what he did.
Shaun McDermott did a great job on draft day, Sal, when he came down and explained philosophically what a 3-technique defensive tackle does. Right. And the guy who shades the shoulder of the guards, they can move him around, but he'll shade the shoulder and then shoot the gaps. A lot of times at Houston, they didn't use Oliver. A lot of times there were some games where a lot of people said they misused him and played him on the nose. And if you want to do that, you're not getting the most out of Ed Oliver, who's really he's not the tallest guy, but he's not short, and he's not the heaviest guy, but he's not light, but he's just fast, and he's always moving. And you'll see him on tape if he's not making the tackle in the backfield. I mean, he's chasing the guy
Got
down the
pursuit
field.
capability.
And, not that you want to tackle a guy 20 yards downfield, but it shows that a guy doesn't quit. And
Right.
he's got just that athleticism. And he's got that, we met him a little bit last weekend. He's got that, he's got a little bit of a style to him, a little bit of personality. Guy that people are going to gravitate to. I think, you're going to see a lot out of this kid. I like him. A lot of people have been critical of Jacket Gate. He had the blow up on the sideline with his coach. It was pretty much a silly little thing that both of those men regret, the coach and the player. So that's all behind them. Bills did their due diligence on that. Believe me, I've heard a lot worse than a guy getting mad over a jacket.
And I always say, too, that when these kids are in college, a guy like Ed Oliver, for instance, a lot of these guys are the big men on campus, right? They're the stars of their team. These kids who get drafted in the first round especially. And anytime I see a character issue or something silly like that, I kind of tend to just, the kid's in college. That's not going to happen. When he gets to a pro team, that is not going to be happening. And that's the stuff that he was accused of being kind of a challenge for the coaching staff. Believe me, Shaun McDermott's not putting up with any of that. So I'm not worried in the least about what Ed Oliver's attitude might be coming in. Moving down the list, Leo, the second day after they took Cody Ford, they made a pick in the third round, Leo, that I wasn't quite enamored with. They picked Devin Singletary, a running back out of Florida Atlantic, who, no doubt about it, played at a lower level but dominated that level. Another John Butler famous axiom. Right. We're only going to draft a lower level guy if he truly dominated. This kid did. 66 touchdowns, I think it was, in 3 years. Just incredible production. But, Leo, I don't know. I mean, in the third round, you and I have talked many times. You can get a running back just about anywhere. And I don't know that they had to go do this in the third round for a kid who's 5'7", which, look, nothing wrong with 5'7" kids, but what are the odds that when Lesean Mccoy and Frank Gore are gone after this season, that Devin Singletary, a third-round pick, is going to be your full-time back?
Is your Pro Bowl replacement.
I just don't know if, again, this is before I've even seen the kid play. Maybe he'll come in and be great. He is 203 pounds, so he's got some bulk. That was the only pick they made that I kind of raised my eyebrow. Like, I didn't quite get that one. They could have gone.
He did, absolutely.
They never took a receiver, and I thought that was a spot for receiver.
Yeah, if you're going to go receiver, I think that would have been good value there. A lot of great guys on the board then. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this kid. I know, he's going to be the bowling ball type.
Well, being raved that he was fun to watch. So.
Fun to watch, most fun guy to watch in the draft on tape. I can see that. He did dominate. He averaged 6 yards a carry. It's Conference USA. They were the best team in Conference USA, right. Florida Atlantic.
Actually, you know what? I think a second running back from there got drafted later, too. So they must have had a pretty good attack.
Good players come from all different places, so I'm not going to write the kid off. But you make a great point. When they're done with McCoy and Gore and they ride off in their wheelchairs.
Well, hopefully not wheelchairs, but.
Well, you know what I mean. Rocking chairs.
Rocking chairs, yeah.
So we're saying, okay, who's the Bills' running back of the future?
Yeah.
Is he on this?
Maybe it's TJ Yeldon, who they signed in free agency. I don't know. He's more of a third down.
Yeah,
back,
Yeldon, and you got Marcus Murphy from last year.
Yeah,
that had
I don't even
nice,
think he's making the team this year, Leo.
Yeah. He, I was trying to think of the other names there, and then Tyree Jones is
Tyree Jones is gone. They have Marcus Murphy and Keith Ford. And then they signed Sonoris Perry, but he's strictly a special teams guy. So it's going to be, when it comes down to picking the depth chart for running back, if Perry is going to be one of those guys, he's only going to be there for special teams.
There's the other thing. They got 8 running backs, and 2 of them, Sal, if we just want to branch off a minute, do you think McCoy's in trouble? I don't.
Look, I've been saying this right along, and Brandon Beane and Shaun McDermott can say it until the regular season starts, that he's going to be the starter. It has never made sense since the end of last season to me, probably not to you, why they would maintain Lesean McCoy on the roster after the season he just had, the fact that he'll be 31 years old and he's making $9 million. I don't understand why they're sticking with McCoy.
And
he's a player in decline.
And I tell you what, Beane loves Gore too, though. And Gore's a different cat altogether. He was more productive than McCoy last year in Miami. Obviously, the guy just proves that he's a different breed altogether. Not to take anything away from
McCoy from
Shady, because Shady's had a long longevity at a tough position. So in his own right, he's a survivor as well. He's unique. But I'm going to tell you, Shady's got a lot to show me next year.
Yeah.
And I don't, he's got the great ones, and he is the great one. And, his first 2 years here, he would make some plays out of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And he really didn't do that last year.
No, he didn't at all. And again, the offensive line didn't help him. There were times when he'd take the handoff and he was already dead because of the penetration. And again, having Josh Allen, a quarterback with no passing game for a long part of the season, nobody respected the pass. They ganged up on McCoy. So I think what the Bills, if they truly are going to keep McCoy on, they're banking on teams now will have to respect the Bills' passing game because they have upgraded at receiver. Josh Allen's in his second year, and they think they've addressed the offensive line. So we'll see. But to your point, it would not surprise me in the least, Leo, that come summertime in training camp, he could be one of those surprise cuts. Or if a team somewhere, a contender, has a big injury, they can make a trade for him. Again, his trade value is not great, but you could get a draft pick somewhere for McCoy. It's not going to surprise me at all if he's not on the team or if he is on the team. It's kind of up in the air for me.
I guess I'm just trying to still get my head around where are you? What is the roles for both McCoy and Gore?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like McCoy will start, Gore will relieve, Yeldon can come in on third down, and Devin Singletary will be inactive all week or every week, learning how to play in the NFL. Yeah. That's the way it looks right now. But again, that's totally a fluid situation. That is. Moving down now in the third round, Dawson Knox. Now, this is a pick that I'm intrigued by. Now, I didn't really know anything about this kid. Played at Mississippi, had very low production. There were a couple good reasons for that. Number one, they had a great wide receiver group at Ole Miss. A couple of DK Metcalf, AJ Brown.
Naturally, Metcalf, Brown both got drafted second round.
Those guys were when they threw the ball. Good, so. When they threw the ball, they threw it outside, and Knox didn't get a whole lot of opportunity. However, when he did catch passes, I think he averaged about 17 yards a catch. You look at his. I don't watch tape, but I watch highlights, and you can see when he has the ball in his hands. A, he seems to know how to catch it. B, he looks like a good athlete who can run. And that's really what they have lacked for so long at tight end. Charles Clay was supposed to be that guy, but he made like 2 big plays a year. Dawson Knox looks like a kid that if he can learn how to play and he can prove himself as a blocker and so he gets playing time, he looks like an athlete that you're looking for these days at tight end. So I kind of like that pick. Yeah. I'm not sure they traded up to get him, right? Because I think they didn't have a 4th-round pick, so Bean was very nervous. A couple tight ends started coming off, and he must have liked it. Well, he did. He obviously liked him enough to trade up.
And I think he wanted to get rid of some picks too, because they had a lot of them.
True. They had way too many picks.
And the knock on Knox, well, 15 catches on a bad Ole Miss team. That doesn't really,
doesn't look good. The production didn't
put it
look
that
good.
way. And regardless even if you have great receivers, maybe why didn't you use his tight end more if he was that good?
Right.
On the positive side is that a lot of people, he was probably in this area there, and I could see why they got a little nervous that he would be gone.
Yeah, I think most of the projections I saw were third round, top of the 4th.
And they needed a tight end. They really did.
We don't know what they have at that position.
Yeah.
Tyler Croft looks like
Croft is a decent serviceable veteran.
Right. But you don't want serviceable.
They got high hopes for Kroom, who had his drops last year, but also is a real heck of an athlete.
He's a good athlete, former wide receiver.
Yeah, so there's
Can't
a guy.
block a lick.
But they needed some bodies there, and that's just jumping ahead. That their last pick of the day was another tight end, Tommy Sweeney. So
which is a minimal chance making the
team.
So
when you say, are you intrigued by Dawson Knox? Absolutely. I think people want to. It's a great team to come to. I tell you what, if he is any kind of a player, and I know he's got the build for it. He's a tough kid. I just don't want to hear any more about blocking tight ends.
I know,
so tired
me
about
too.
That. But you got to do both. You got to do both. If you're a one-dimensional tight end and say you can't block a lick at all, this is what made Gronk so great. Gronk could block all day long.
I know.
And he also could catch all day long. If you can only do one, you already have telegraphed what you're going to do.
They signed Jake Fisher in free agency, who basically is an offensive tackle. And the way I see that signing, he is never going to be involved in the passing game. But Leo, when they go to 2 tight end sets, they're going to bring him in because obviously they're trying to block. So you don't need Dawson Knox and Tyler Croft and Jason Kroom to be ace blockers. When you need the tight end to really line up and pound, they're going to bring in Jake Fisher for that, assuming he makes the team. That's what he's signed for.
But you got a versatile tight end, and you come in, and he's the only tight end. You don't know if it's a run play or a pass play. If you know the only guy does one.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true.
Unless you got some.
But you know that Brian Dable will use 2 tight end sets, and it won't always be for short yardage.
Right.
So Fisher will be there to help solidify the line, and then hopefully one of these guys, Croft, Knox, or Kroom, can get out in the pattern and actually give the Bills some production at tight end because, man, they have
I would love
lacked
to see
for
that.
so
I mean, we
long.
do. I mean, I just look at tight. You watch any given Sunday in the NFL, and there's tight ends all around the league having huge games, and here's Buffalo plodding along with nothing for year after year after year.
And it was frustrating that because Charles Clay, when he was at Miami, I was never a big fan of his, but you could tell that.
No, I loved that signing when they did.
He was the kind of guy that looked like that's what they've lacked for.
Yes.
Really, you go back to Jay Riemersma, was probably the last good receiving tight end on a consistent basis because he was here about 3 years.
Yeah.
That's going back to the early 2000s. They haven't had anybody like that. And then Clay was supposed to be the guy. And, I knocked Charles Clay. He did have 3 years, I think it was 49 or more catches. And then last year he just fell off the
You were never a Clay fan,
rail.
I know.
But I was never a big
liked-
Clay fan.
No, I liked. I mean, they paid dearly for him. Whaley gave him a lot of money, but he was a restricted guy. And
he gave him a Buffalo contract.
And Miami
they had to overpay.
It was so great that Miami didn't match. So, it's kind of disappointing how his career ended here. It's kind of confusing because I know how hard Charles Clay worked. We saw him every day.
He did
out there.
work, yeah.
It just didn't make sense that he was not almost a dominant tight end because he
think
had everything you would look for.
The one thing we overlooked too is the quarterback play in Buffalo. Just certainly
Well, that's
didn't
true
help
too.
him.
No,
I mean Tyrod didn't really help him.
He played with 4 QBs last year.
Peterman, so that was part of the problem. But look, it was time for a change at tight end, and I'm glad they started the offseason with 1 guy in the roster. They've added 4, so they recognized it too, and I'm glad they've hit it.
Well, and part of it too was they wanted to clean that. They wanted to clean his money off the
true.
out of town too. So that was part of it.
The last 4 picks, real quickly, because I don't think any of these guys are going to have much of a role this season outside of maybe special teams. Lesean Joseph, outside linebacker, looks like a safety, Leo. I mean, he lines up, he's 230 pounds, and he looked at Florida. And when you watch him, he looked like he moves like a safety. So that to me looks like obviously a depth signing, and then he'll be, they hope, a stud on special teams.
Yeah, I mean, is he better than Matt Milano? Probably not.
No, he's not going to start. I mean, even next year when Alexander's gone, I'm not sure that this kid would be the outside linebacker. He's going to start at outside linebacker. Shaun didn't know if it was going to be Will or Sam. They're going to try him, but he looks like a depth guy to me. I think next year they're going to look in free agency or the draft again for Alexander's replacement. The other guy, J-Kwon Johnson, sort of was he like a safety? I think he was more of a safety in college. Again, he's going to be a special teams kid. And the 2 7th-round guys, they picked an edge rusher in Daryl Johnson. And that kid looks like a really good athlete and maybe someone who's probably destined for the practice squad. Because right now, their depth chart is pretty full at edge. Now, the key there is that after 2019, Leo, they're going to be in overhaul mode. You're going to lose. We're going to talk about this in a second. Shaq Lawson, Jerry Hughes is probably gone. They could choose to move on from Trent Murphy in the last year of his contract. All of a sudden, you're in a big need for a defensive end. So maybe Daryl Johnson is a guy they're thinking about for next year. If they can get him on the practice squad, let him learn there. And maybe he becomes something. I don't know, but a 7th-round pick.
If they got something
total roll the dice.
If they got a 7th-round pass rusher, God bless him.
That's a total roll of the dice there. So I'm not expecting much out of him or Tommy Sweeney, the tight end they picked from Boston College.
Right.
All right, moving away from the draft. Today was the deadline for the Bills to exercise the 5th-year option on Shaq Lawson's contract. They haven't officially said it, but it's been reported numerous places that they're not going to do that, which is the smart move. There was no way, Leo, that Shaq Lawson was going to be commanding what would have been about a $10 million salary in 2020 if they had exercised this option. If you don't know what the 5th-year option is, all first-round picks, draft picks, that they signed 4-year contracts, a standard rookie 4-year contract. First-round picks, the team can exercise a 5th-year option, and the salary is based on where that kid was picked in the first round. And I think Lawson slots into number 3 to number 25. He was the 19th overall pick. So the calculation is the estimate would have been $10 million.
Yeah.
Leo, Shaq Lawson is not a $10 million player.
No.
The Bills needed to not do this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't, and this is not to pan Shaq Lawson. I think he came in last year. Obviously, he's not their pick. He's Rex Ryan's guy. He had to prove himself. His career began, injuries have been his problem. And he hasn't been able to put it all together. And when he does, obviously by not picking up this option, they've motivated him to have a big
Yeah.
2019.
That's true.
And he can either
He's playing for a free agency
he can
contract
either
next
re-sign
year.
with the Bills or he can go out and make a boatload of money with somebody else. So it's all on Shaq, and they need pass rush.
They do.
On the edge.
I mean, Jerry Hughes is going to be 31. I think he's still a pretty good player. But here's another guy, Leo. I don't see them giving him a contract extension to go past. He's going to be 31 in August.
As at his age, yeah.
So, and then if he hits free
Shaq's
agency.
the guy. Now, wouldn't it be something if Shaq Lawson really brought it? I don't know if he's healthy and he really brings it and they use him.
Who knows? To me, I just wrote this a little while ago. In fact, he was a Rex Ryan, Doug Whaley, more a Rex Ryan pick. And he was supposed to come into Rex's 3-4 defense. They thought he was a good fit. Well, now they're in McDermott's 4-3, and he's primarily an edge guy. And his best days at Clemson, he flip-flopped inside out. And I think he kind of got lost in McDermott's defense a little bit. He's not exactly the right fit. And his production just hasn't been good. You said injuries have been a big part of it.
He's good in,
but he hasn't been a difference maker.
I think he's pretty good in the run. But you're not going to give a run guy $10 million.
No way. So, not on the edge.
Yeah, so that's where they're at. It's a smart move by Bean again, and I think the biggest thing is that they said, here you go, you're motivated now. Go out and have a monster year.
He does. He needs to have a big year, and if he does, that'll be great for the Bills because we think they've upgraded their defensive line with Ed Oliver.
Yeah.
You look across Jerry Hughes, Ed Oliver, Star Lotulelei, and Shaq Lawson or Trent Murphy, whatever guy's going to start. That's not a bad defensive line. So I like the idea
if
of not re-upping
if
with
Oliver is everything he can be in the middle there, and they get that, if they get if you can pressure the quarterback, as McDermott likes to call it, inside out.
Up the middle. Yep.
You're putting pressure on up the pocket, collapsing that, and now you got your edge. It's the perfect storm. That's what you want, and it takes a special guy in that middle to do that. And if they got that guy, holy cow! Then it will make Hughes better. Maybe Shaq. Instead of a couple sacks, he's up into the.
And then don't
he
forget,
could get up to double. I mean, it's possible.
You got Tremaine Edmonds in the back there too. So if plays spill out to the sides or even up the middle, Tremaine Edmonds can clean it up pretty well. So
I
that's
think
a good
defensively,
situation.
Sal, that defense was good enough to win with last year. It's good enough to win with again.
Agree.
And it's all on the offense. Obviously, that's where all the focus will be. We didn't mention your David Sills, the free agent wide receiver.
Yeah. Look, a lot of talk about David Sills. We talked about it before he came down here. Don't forget, 32 teams passed on him at least 7 times. So I'm not quite sure what he is. I understand all the hullabaloo, but let's just pump the brakes a bit.
It'll be a good camp story. I mean,
it will be.
He got a college offer at age 13 to go to USC.
Yeah.
Never happened. The Lane Kiffin got fired. He hurt his hand. He was never the same player. He ends up going to West Virginia and converts from quarterback to wide receiver. He's got nice size, but everybody's going crazy for this kid.
Right.
People
That's
already
what
inserting
happens,
him in the starting lineup. 28 receivers got drafted, and he wasn't one of them.
I know.
So I'm looking for here. We all like a good story, and that's what we do, right? So it'll be a fun watch. But I just if he's among the cuts in camp, I'm not going to be shocked.
There was, I forget who it was a couple of years ago that the kid from Nebraska, the wide receiver from Nebraska.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
I forget what his name. That's how old we're getting. He was just a couple of years ago. People were in love with this guy. He was a 7th round pick, I think. Yeah. Well, it turned out he couldn't play at all, and he's gone. So the other kid is Tyree Jackson, the UB quarterback.
Oh, right.
Now he was supposed to be a kid that a lot of draft people got excited because of his size, his great arm, that, he could be a 4th round pick maybe. Well, it ended up that he didn't get picked by anybody. The Bills, I think, kind of did him a favor. They're going to bring him in. He'll be a camp arm for sure. I would be shocked if he makes the team. I mean,
that's a good signing, though. I don't know. Yeah, he's not going to beat out Barkley. Barkley's number 2.
Yeah, Barkley and Anderson, I think.
Anderson's here to be a coach.
He's just a mentor, right? They don't want him to play. But
if he didn't, if they were smart, they would just name Anderson the assistant quarterback coach and save the roster spot.
I know.
Seriously,
he doesn't want to coach though. He wants to play.
I know
he thinks
he
he can still play if those two guys both get hurt.
I know he does.
So Tyree Jackson will be a fun story for Buffalo. A kid that they know, but I don't think he has much chance.
They say he's very similar in size and style to Josh Allen. So if you wanted a backup, obviously it's great if your backup can run the same offense.
They can play a very similar style, I think, with their athleticism.
But, we'll see. But yeah, another fun guy to watch coming up in spring, and and this summer.
All right. All right, that'll wrap it up for us, folks. We hope you enjoyed the show. Again, for Leo Roth, I am Sal Maiorana. We'll probably be doing these a little less infrequently, although we certainly did it infrequently this past month. But we won't be a weekly, but we'll definitely be back as the spring year moves on. Is that good for you?
Don't you want to do a senior PGA show?
No, I
think
don't.
anyone will tune in for that.
I don't think we'll do a senior PGA. I just did a senior PGA video today. Make sure you watch that.
Watch that,
Democratic
by all
Chronicle.
means.
Absolutely. All right, so for Leo, I'm Sal. Have a great day.